while strolling through the woods one day in the very, very month of April. Welcome to part 2. I got the best seat in the house, so make sure to grab your zip ties, your locking hubs, and all the cool secret technology for your Jeep, and enjoy part 2.
You know, one of my worries when you were talking about that just reminded me, I was worried about the fuel pump.
Okay.
I didn't know if the fuel pump was going to push on the pressure. It did. I didn't have to change anything on the fuel pump. Novak kit came down with 2 fuel lines, one with a filter on it and one that was an intake and one return. And I put double clamps on it just to make sure everything was good. It clamped it right to the existing
fuel supply
lines.
and return lines.
And boom, and it's got a fuel pressure regulator up there. So if it was over pressure, it regulates it. That was super simple. I was so worried about that when I bought this kit, and it turned out it was.
I would tell you, he almost passed out when we turned the key on that first hot start, and she lit off in half a crank.
Yeah,
the man just about collapsed because he's like, "Oh my God, it works."
We're actually getting this thing together, and it's working.
Right. And that's the fun part when you see everything come together. You talk about the system, the planning, the work, and it does take money. Let's just be honest.
Oh yeah.
But again, Kevin having that experience with the other V8 swap, sometimes it's nice to have that package already done for you. Mm-hmm. Because again, the engineering's been done. People sometimes balk at why things are so expensive compared to a cheaper model. It's in the engineering. It's in the care and the materials the things are made with. You said a one-off custom radiator, basically.
Yep. That bolted right into the front clip.
Wow.
While I had the front clip off, I cleaned it all up and repainted the inside black to make everything look nice. But then I just fabbed my own out of Lowe's aluminum bar stock.
To mount his transmission cooler.
Yeah, transmission cooler. and
Which they provided as well.
That's one thing I really want to byline here. The shifter assembly. If you look inside the Jeep, folks, you're going to see basically what looks like a manual shift, but it's actually an automatic. And he kept the look of the manual shift, and
right down to the factory boots.
The factory boot still fits, and that was kind of cool, man. That was really neat when I saw that because when I saw the underhood first, I saw the transmission dipstick, and then I looked inside, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, he's messing with me in one way. It's either an automatic disguised to look like a manual, or the other way around.
Yep.
But why would you put a transmission dipstick in a manual? Because then you're really messing with people. The poor guy at Jiffy Lube's gonna be like, what the?
Yeah. No, it was a 5-speed, and I wanted an automatic, so I had to get up there and delete the clutch pedal.
Yep. And he did that exceedingly well.
Yep. It was more in my head that I was worried about than it actually was to do. Mm-hmm. If you're fairly mechanically inclined, it wasn't bad. It is a drive-by-wire, so the gas pedal, I do some modification on that.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. The next is you kind of like you made your own bracket, and you kind of went between your truck and
made his own pedal arm too.
Yeah, pedal arm, just that way you can keep going back and forth to make sure it fit your foot the way you want it.
Yeah, and we have a picture of it that they'll put up. And basically, I just cut the arm off at the top and cut it off at the bottom because it did have a spring-loaded little pedal. And then I just fabricated my own arm, and then I actually drilled holes and bolted it. So I was able to
with the bolts.
Yeah, I bolted together.
Nice.
So I was able to because the arm came out from the original one. It ran right into the transmission tunnel, and there's no way it was going to work.
Yeah.
There's no way I could mount it. There was nowhere to put it. So I had to move it the opposite direction. So I just bent a piece of bar stock and bolted it in top and bolted it in the bottom, and then I could adjust those to where I wanted it. I looked at my truck. Where's the pedal in my truck? Where's the pedal in my old Jeep?
Right.
How far apart is it from the gas pedal to the brake? And then
Does it hit the floorboard before the throttle hits the floorboard kind of thing,
Yeah.
And then once I got it adjusted, I ground it down to look nice, brought it over to Kevin.
Yeah.
We welded it and painted it, threw it in, and you can't tell it's not really factory.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I'm glad, because that was one of the questions I had, because making it all work, where bending the levers and trimming the floor panels, factory shift boot, marrying the new harness to the old. It sounds like you did a lot of even with the Novak kit, you did a lot of your own forethought, for foreshadowing and thinking about it and planning and doing these things, because it literally looks like it came. Everyone keeps saying this with their own, the like different companies that do conversions. It looks factory. That looks like a factory YJV8.
Yeah. If there was such a thing.
Yeah.
I have to throw another bone to Novak though of something they put in the kit that was absolutely cool. Is you have to bend your own transfer case lever to fit your system, and they give you a piece of bar stock to heat up and bend. But in addition to that, Bob, they give you your little baton.
Yeah, rubber with metal in, so it's like a coat hanger with rubber around it, so it looks like a piece of bar stock that you bend that and
bend
see
by
where it
hand,
needs to be, and then you match that to your bar stock and heat it up and bend it.
Nice.
Which I think we got pictures of that also.
Yeah, so we bent this little floppy. There's so many wrong things I could say right there, but this moldable shift lever. How's that, Scott?
Yeah,
that should keep us off the
no list.
The no list, and then you just bring that over and copy that with a vise and a torch, and just heat and bend until okay, and then you go back and fit it. And his goal was to have it come up the same boot as the original shifter. So as you say, when you look in there, not only did we put the transmission where the manual shift would have been, we put the Novak transfer case lever in the same spot as Jeep did.
It looks factory. it tripped me out. It really did. I was like, what?
And since we're talking about the Novak, the other thing they did was when I called them, and they were so good that he goes, all right, what gears are you running? What tire size do you plan on running? What do you want it to do? I said, I want it to be able to go 70 mile an hour down the highway. I want it to be able to go to the beach. I want to take it, drive it down the highway. And he goes, all right, you're going to be doing 70 mile an hour at 6,100 RPM. And I tell you, he's almost dead on.
Oop, sorry. We had a slight paper failure there, kids. Let's see here. But see, so now, okay, so is that where you wanted to be at for the highway, or do you mainly trailer it?
No, I tow it. I don't have a trailer. I've got a little tow bar. I've always had a tow bar for it. So if I do,
case in neutral and go.
Yep, I just put everything in neutral and pull it.
So everything considered, like we talked about, I don't know if we talked about the paint, but like you've Rhino line, or is it
Monster Liner?
Monster Liner.
Yep.
Yeah, it's green with black accents all over it. How long did it take you to do the Monster Liner?
Just the body work took me a while, because I had to actually cut out underneath here on both sides. I had to cut out the floor on this side and a little section of floor on the other side. I made a template out of cardboard that fit in the hole. I traced it to a piece of Lowe's steel, same gauge. I don't have a welder, so I had a friend of mine tack it in. I ground it down and put a very thin coat of Bondo over it, and basically everything else was just roughing up. There wasn't any real dents in it. A couple small ones in the hood that I just popped out with a hammer. Sand it down, rough it up. They give you Scotch pads with the Monster Liner. And of course, basically it's a bed liner that comes in multiple colors.
Right.
I picked the green. It's better than some of the other bright yellows or oranges they had that I wasn't going to go with. But so it wasn't that bad. Mask it off, and believe it or not, I rolled this on with the nylon rollers that they provided with the kit.
Nice. Mm-hmm. It's nice and smooth.
Yep. Order extra rollers if you do that, because they end up deteriorating after a while. Then they'll leave little deposits, which I have a few. But I did that so I can go out in the woods and hit branches and stuff and not worry about scraping up a paint job.
And you also did the hard top too.
The hard top was just recent, just within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I've got 3 hard tops, guys. I found.
So if you know anyone looking for one.
Yeah, I found 2.
He actually has a buyer for
Yeah, I got a buyer for one. So I found a CJ and a YJ hard top. Both. Well, the YJ wasn't bad, but the hinges were bad. But I've got a way to fix that.
Yeah.
I was going to fix that one up and do that one, and then Kevin.
I was just on Facebook Marketplace local here, and there was somebody cleaning out believe it or not, a horse trailer. And they
were horsing around.
And here was a top, and I got to be honest, it was immaculate condition. Yeah. He made it perfect, but it really was, and it was stored in an old horse trailer, and they only wanted $250 for it.
Amazing. I said,
and we ran over that afternoon in the pouring rain to make sure we were first in line.
Slid it in the back of his truck, strapped it down, we took off. But yeah, all I painted the inside, I use Herculiner, like everything on my roll bar and some of this stuff. It's a spray-on bed liner. It's a hard finish. It's not soft. So I Herculined the outside of it. I had the windows tinted. I got new seals for it. Everything in it mounted right up. So now I've got the other two. One, the CJ one, I'm going to cut and make the flat bimini top for it.
Like a safari top, you know.
Kind of like we were discussing this,
Yes.
kind of like how the new JLs are.
Yeah.
They're like legless, for lack of better terms. Any AC or heat in the vehicle? Or
There's definitely heat.
Okay.
There's
More
no
heat
AC.
than you ever could want.
So
Take the doors off, and that's your air conditioning.
so that's a slow no on the air conditioning.
Well,
Gotcha.
you have to understand that the YJs never came with built-in air. It was always an underdash unit, and the LS actually does have the mount for a factory compressor, so it could be installed if he chooses to. And
There's aftermarket kits that nice little unit about this big will fit under that dash, and I just have to go get the compressor from a junkyard. And a evaporator or whatever, and throw it in there. I could AC it. This top is going to be for winter use only. I don't like running with the top on. We discussed that. I like running with the top off. This is what I wanted it for. I want to take it to the woods, the beach. If it rains, I can put the soft doors on with the vinyl windows, and at least the front section will be dry.
Right.
And other than that, it comes off, and that's the way I like running around.
Sweet.
I've always been a motorcycle guy. I ran dirt bikes in Pennsylvania when I was a kid, strip mines through the woods, and down here, it's just too dangerous. I'm not going to get another bike. I would like to have a nice cruiser to go around in. So this with the doors and windows off is my cruiser, but a lot safer on the road.
Well, and now you can get out of the way of people in traffic that are doing crazy things in front of you.
Yeah. So let's. So obviously you got the winch and the front bumper. And the front bumper's kind of cool because you just basically cut down the factory bumper.
I wanted to keep the Jeep as stock looking as possible. I like the looks of the stock Jeep. I didn't want to modify it, and people put their touch to it and different high-speed bumpers and everything. So I just cut it down to make it a little narrower. I used a, believe it or not, Harbor Freight winch mount, but I did fabricate some plates with a hoop on the front that leans forward just a little bit so I can put a light up on top of that.
There you go. I think they're called winch protectors. Ow! I just hit the mic stand.
Are you talking about the stinger out front or the short stinger?
No, the actually on the front of the Gladiator, that little bull bar. I used to call it, they're actually called a winch protector. I just learned that like 3 days ago. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Okay.
But I guess to keep a tree branch or a marmoset from falling on it or something. I don't know.
I suppose.
So the same guy that I did buy some Genrite, what they call them, extensions, that bolted in where the speakers go on each side, which allows you to weld a roll bar up to the existing roll bar, because there's no roll bar in the front. Your windshield is your roll bar. So I wanted my own real roll bar, so I got the Genrite extensions and had a guy weld up a bar across, another one down, and then two right in the center here.
Nice.
So he's got full cage now.
So here comes the most important question, because I hear this and see this all the time. So you have all this going through a Dana 35 rear axle because, if I don't put my foot in it, it'll survive, right?
Yeah, that ain't working.
So we didn't really touch on the axles. What kind of axles you got?
That was one of the first things I did also. I just didn't like the 30 and 35. I read too many things about them. Not that the four-cylinder is going to break it, but I call it East Coast Gear Supply. I'll throw kudos to the guys that do a good job, and they did for me. So I ordered a custom Dana 44 with thicker tubes, chromoly axles, E-locker, and a disc brake kit.
Sound familiar?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. So I wanted that. And I already had the slip yoke eliminator.
Right.
Shane at Drive Shaft Specialist did my drive shafts. Next thing you know, after I paid that bill off, I ordered the front one. And the front one was a little bit more, but I did order it with the, was it the gussets?
Yeah.
Beefed up. I did that. Same exact thing. Dana 44, custom tubes, chromoly's, and E-locker in the front, too.
And got rid of the CAD system, too, the center axle disconnect.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yep. So that's all gone. So he said they're almost as strong as Dana 60s is what he told me.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's true, but
it's pretty close to it, because the main weakness on the factory 44s was most of the manufacturer specified thin tubes and very skinny C knuckles, the outer C where the axle turns on. You look at the classic TJs, you'll see that outer C bracket that the ball joints mount in is Coke bottled on the upper arm, very narrow, and it's the same one whether it's a 44 or a 35. Or 30. Sorry, they bend there. That's why the whole thing with the gusseting. Yeah. And there are forged pieces that are much stouter, and his has.
Yeah, it's pretty beefed up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, like, any audio upgrades? Anything else you did?
I did. I put a center console in. I didn't want the stereo out there since I'm not running doors and windows most of the time. I got rid of the stereo where the factory stereo goes, and I put it in a center console. I bought one of those, and I couldn't tell you what manufacturer it was. I don't remember at the time without looking at the catalogs. But I like the idea of having the center console with a closed door where you can lock.
Yeah.
So I can lock the center console, and the stereo is locked at the same time.
That's the same one I had on my YJ.
And it has an added benefit is that if it rains and your top's not on, you can close the door, and it still watertight for the radio.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have the usual, what I've seen posted all the times now on the jails and Gladiators. It rained and my radio doesn't work. What can I do? Buy a new one.
Fill the Jeep with rice and pray.
Yes.
So I put where the radio went, I put a nice switch panel. Of course, you need a phone charger, so I put a USB port, a cigarette lighter port for a air pump or whatever you need to use it for. And that came out really nice.
Radar detector?
Yeah.
Or the fuzz buster, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he definitely gets a few raised eyebrows, and I will relate, and I did on the podcast, folks, but this story's too good to be true, is we left the tuners. And as we left the tuners, we're out on a small business frontage road leading up to getting on the highway that was under construction. And he was kind of playing around and feeling it out, and we were in the right lane, and a Mustang, a late model Mustang, pulls up in the left lane, and we've got a short run before the merge, and the light turned green, and next thing I know, I'm pinned to the seat. Bob's feeling that new tune out.
Oh, yeah.
And he smoked a late model Mustang getting to the merge, because down in the bottom end where the torque comes on, that's where she's the strongest, and she leaped.
It's funny you talked about that. Remember how you pulled your front tire off the...
Yes.
I was making a U-turn on the way to the Florida Trail Team Challenge, and I had the full lock, right-hand turn, or left-hand turn, and I had to go, and I dumped the clutch, and all of a sudden, bang, as the front of the Jeep comes down, I'm like, did I just lift a tire?
Probably did.
I'm like, that was scary. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
It is a uncomfortable feeling when you have a wheel flying off the ground at that kind of speeds. Yes.
But let me touch on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay, Novak did a basic tune on that. They deleted everything that didn't need to be there.
VATs, any of the interaction for like cruise controls and those kinds of things. That's all gone.
Secondary O2 sensor.
Yeah, secondary O2 sensors.
Now, they did send the kit with the secondary O2 sensor lines in case I needed them, but they turned them off, and he told me they turned them off. I do have the lines, which I have not taken off yet. There's still little things I've got to do.
Yeah.
But it's a hobby. It's a project. It's fun. But anyhow, it came with a basic tune. And now I'm telling you, it ran phenomenal with that tune in it. It ran good, but it was out of a 2003 Chevy Avalanche. And that's a tune for a
2003 Chevy Avalanche.
So we did take it to the tuner, and how we found out about it is Ron was building that Jeep and took it to the tuner.
Yep.
I took it there, and basically what he did was he tuned it for a Jeep. He brought the torque band at a lower RPM, so I've got the torque now, instead of at a higher RPM, brought it down to more usable for a Jeep, on your low crawl stuff. So that was worth the money spent there. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I did it because we just happen to have a tuner that's an hour away, and he's supposed to be very, very good.
Jeremy at Faster Proms, really knowledgeable guy to share his information and knowledge about how that affects the vehicle. And I still remember his one comment to you when you were looking at him and we were doing the pulls, and you made the comment about, well, how come I only hear one shift? And he says, well, because I'm doing the pulls in second gear.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what about third gear and fourth? And Jeremy looked at him and said, well, if we went to third gear, it'd be to 140 on the table, and I really don't want to be doing 140 on the table.
No.
He says, that's really not where it Jeep's.
Right.
So the point is, Jeremy understood the Jeep world, as well as he's into the tuner, the drift cars, the supercharged Cadillacs. Anything.
He's well-rounded.
He's very well-rounded, but he understood when we said, we're looking more for low-end torque and a smooth progression of power rather than a lot of cars have an abrupt, like a jump. If you accelerate, you feel them like people say, well, it feels like it caught its breath, and launched.
It launched, yeah.
And you don't really want that when you're off-road, because that leads to stuck and hitting things. So it was really nice for Jeremy to work with us and give us arguably one of the smoothest power curves. He just puts his foot in and you just feel it build.
Yeah, there's one thing about it. The first gear shift is kind of abrupt.
Yep.
It's very short. I mean, you get on the gas and next thing you know, it's shifting and you feel it shifting. Now, if you take it easy, keep your foot off, it'll shift a little smoother. But, if I'm on the trail, I'm probably in first.
Yeah.
And I'm not shifting like that. So,
right.
Yeah. Does that matter on the trail? No. If you don't want the abrupt shift, well, then just don't put your foot in it for the first part of the gas, and you're fine.
Mm-hmm. So what's next on the agenda for the YJ?
I don't know. I'll see how it does.
Driving it, maybe off-roading it.
Driving it.
You're
I'd
just
like to
gonna
drive
enjoy it.
I'm gonna enjoy it. I went to BDS, which, by the way, it was a funny story, in Coldwater, Michigan. So I just happened to have in-laws in Coldwater, Michigan. He's assistant police chief up there, and it's my wife's sister that he's married to. So I go up to Coldwater, and I bought there. A guy, believe it or not, and I'm from Butler, Pennsylvania, a Jeep shop there said, go with a BDS. I told him what I had. He goes, go with the BDS 6-inch. I went with the BDS 5-inch. And I got BDS springs, so we'll see how they do. If I can get a little bit of articulation and it works fine with the BDS springs, but I don't know if I'll have any problems. It's either going to be a spring over or it's going to be a coil over. If I go that far, that's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
That's going to be expensive.
So all things considered, would you do it again?
Yeah, probably. I don't know if I'd pick a YJ. I might pick a CJ because of the suspension.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the old school Jeep. It is simple. They look good to me.
I gotta tell you, Bob, we go to a couple of those Jeep night events all you have to do is park the Jeep and open the hood and he's got a crowd.
Yeah.
It does bring attention, and because it comes in as a stealth roller, and it's everybody, oh, that looks really nice, and he opens the hood and they're like, I didn't hear you come in.
Yeah, not everything needs an aggressive bump stick.
Right.
Yeah, so
and it's what you commented on. It just looks like a new motor in a Jeep. I mean, it looks like it was made to be put there. I mean, it's just
it looks like it came factory.
Yeah, it's clean and neat. And I did all he did the neat wiring stuff, and I did the neat paint and clean up and all that stuff. So it both between the two of us, it came out really good.
It did. It came out really well. Anything else, you guys? Any tips you'd like to offer other people if they're thinking about doing this?
Look into Novak. It might save you some money. It was just a lot easier for me. I didn't want to go through the hassle of buying a junkyard motor and transmission and cut the wire harness and then find somebody. I wouldn't even be able to cut a wire harness down. Maybe that's easy for a lot of people. I've seen people do it on YouTube's. I didn't want to do it and then find somebody to reflash the computer. What radiator do I put in it? What do I do with this? It was even if I was a little worried about spending the money, but it was worth it to me.
Anything else you do different?
No, I think I like the way it turned out.
There you go.
And I'll chime in and tell you folks what he did that made this work. And if you're thinking this way, is he took the time before he undid the first bolt and figured out what he wanted. Nothing will cost you more than changing your plans midstream.
Yeah.
He chose a course. He did his homework. He did his research. He asked a lot of questions. He went to shops. He worked with shops to figure out what worked and what didn't. And then once he formulated his plan, we executed.
And the most important part is he did what he wanted.
Yeah, he did what he wanted.
I just had to take that big step. That was scary. It was scary.
Yeah, write that check.
Yep.
But then again, the stars in his eyes when the crate came and it was unloaded there, and he's like, "Did you go see it? Did you go see it?" But it was a lot of fun. And Bob, I want to tell you, thank you very much for inviting me to help you with it, because that was a blast.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'm almost sorry it's over.
Well, we got a slightly altered coming up, and now I think I'm going to order one for the Gladiator. So on that note,
well, folks, we appreciate your time, and we hope you enjoyed it and all the cutaway clips and pictures and stuff that shows the process and everything that went on. Bob has a one-of-a-kind YJ. I know there are other swapped YJs, but this one's his.
Yeah.
And it meets his wants and his needs. And he wanted to share it with you. Yeah. So, Bob, thanks again for sharing it with you.
Yeah.
Well, I watched a lot of videos, and that's where I learned and what to do, what not to do, and hopefully this will give you an idea if you ever want to do this to a TJ or a YJ, that there's opportunities out there. There's different places to go to, and that's just how I did mine.
Yep. And as we always say, I think it's about time to call it quits, lock ups, put the Jeeps in 4-low, and hit the trails.
And also, don't forget to take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave the trail, because my pop-up timer just went, and I think I got a headburn. So on that note, we'll see you guys on the next show.
Bye now.
Bye.
Take care.